Making all the mistakes right now, y'all. Jeez. Sorry about that. What a crazy week for sports, though, this week, huh? We got the whole Ohtani scandal, baseball kicking off tomorrow. We got March Madness still going on. A UFC fighter bit a guy.
Oh, man.
Andretti lost his entire rear assembly in the truck series. Did y'all see that? That was crazy. Just some nuts stuff going on in sports this week, but it's a whole lot more fun.
You paused at the wrong time because I did not hear about the Andretti thing.
Oh,
I just heard lost his rear end, and you paused. I'm like, what happened?
Oh,
and then you finish like, okay, that makes more sense.
We can talk about that and many more things this week on this episode of the Sports Page. I am Dan Boyer, a Neon Super Shrimp, and talking about all these things is way more fun when we get the tribe involved. So let's just bring the boys in here. Joining me as always, Ashton and Ross. There we go. And yeah, you didn't see that on Saturday. It was Andretti in the NASCAR truck series coming around like turn 11 or something like that, and he like slides out of control. His entire rear assembly come off, like just unheard of. Never seen in NASCAR before. Entire rear assembly, but I think it's safe to say he did not finish that race. So crazy.
Well, yeah, that was my next question, but I was pretty, I didn't want to be the guy to ask.
Yeah, for sure. All right, boys. How's the week been? Y'all got big plans for Good Friday, Easter coming up, the kids and all?
I mean, a lot of stuff going on this weekend. Not only multiple podcasts involving this and other stuff, and yeah, when you have kids and Easter, I mean, I don't know how. I know Ross's son's a little older, and I have an 11-year-old or about to be 11-year-old. He hasn't talked about or mentioned like he doesn't want to do Easter egg hunting. I just wonder, Ross, does your son still do that? And at what point do they start losing interest in that?
That's a good question. I would say probably like 8 or 9,
okay.
When, they definitely still believe in Santa, but so it's before they figure out Santa Claus, I think. But I don't know. Bo was like 6 or 7. And we were doing Easter egg hunts, but now it's just not a thing for him to do anymore. It's not cool, man. He's 13, so he's got the cool stuff.
Well, we'll still definitely do it because he has a little brother and a lot of cousins are all younger than him, and there's more babies coming up through the family. So it's not something we're going to stop. So we're going to still participate. And then if he wants to jump in and do it, I was just wondering about that because I told my wife, like, he's getting kind of old. I'll let him do it as long as he wants to do it, but kind of.
I definitely think if it's a family tradition, that kind of adds a few years at least to the interest of doing it,
Yeah.
And then eventually he'll be old enough. He's like, well, I want to hide eggs, which that's the spot to be in.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, for sure. It takes a little bit of pressure off me.
What about you, Dan? What are you doing for Easter?
I'm doing the usual. I'm going to, get my rest, obviously lots of stuff to keep up with for the network and everything, doing work for the brand all weekend. We've got March Madness continuing all through the weekend. So I'll be watching that and posting that on our Facebook page. Feel free to drop us a like or follow at Peak One Sports. But before we get too far into everything, Ashton, you want to shout out that sponsor of ours and let the people know?
Oh man, no warning, because this was Chris's week. Now I gotta try.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. I should have covered down. I should have did it myself. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. I mean, I've only been doing
remember, it's Peak One, not Peak One Sports is the promo code.
Yeah, promo code at Peak One if you want some help making bets. Don't bet with your gut. Use Betalytics. They have all these computers, AI algorithms that help you make your
there you go, Ross, embrace
bets. Point straight at that logo. Go to Betalytics.com, links below. Use promo code Peak1 and you can get 25% off when you sign up today. Peak1.
Hell yeah. And don't forget to shout us out on our social media platforms. We're on literally everything at Peak One Sports. Let us know your winners. Let us know some of those tough losers maybe that you get. I know we've had some tough ones. I personally have missed a few parlays by just 1 or 2 legs here and there, and that's always kind of a heartbreaker. But Yeah, good stuff. All right. So let's just go ahead and kick off this week with Shohei Ohtani and this whole interpreter betting scandal. For those that have been paying attention, for those that haven't been paying attention, Shohei Ohtani's ex-interpreter, I'm just going to call him by his last name because I'm not sure how to say his first name, but his ex-interpreter at this point, Mizuhara, has been accused of stealing money from Ohtani to the tune of $4.5 million. All in order to settle gambling debts that he has with an illegal bookmaker in Orange County, California, which is also currently under a federal investigation. Just kind of first thoughts here, or like, do we think he's guilty? I do want to throw out and preface for those that don't know, Major League Baseball players are allowed to gamble. They are allowed to gamble on sports. They are not allowed to gamble on baseball. So just thoughts from everybody. We got Can't Count Me Out says he's guilty. Boys, what do you guys think?
I've been paying attention more to the people in the gambling world, the people who at least pretend they know what they're talking about, because I have no clue. I place little parlays. I'm not a degenerate gambler at all. But they say there's no way that an interpreter making however a few $100,000 a year, how much ever interpreter makes, there's no way that guy is getting a loan amount or a credit line from a bookie that's that big. I'm not saying I agree or not. I just thought it was a good point. Like, if you're getting a $3 million or however much the line of credit was, that would make much more sense if you were the best player in the world making hundreds of millions of dollars,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's
line
more
of thought I hadn't thought of, to be honest.
Yeah, I think there's more to the story. I'm not saying it's straight up Ohtani's gambling. He got caught. He's got to throw the guy into the bus. I think it's a little more complicated than that, but they tried to paint it off as like, hey, he's my best friend. I helped him out. And it seemed like the Dodgers were just like, no, he's not your best friend. He stole from you. I think that's a load of BS, was that he stole money from him out of his account. I think that's just a cover of why we're firing him and getting rid of him, honestly.
I agree 100%. I also think there's more to it. So I'm interested to see what they find in the federal investigation about this, like maybe the FBI is doing. But not only that, but MLB said that they launched their own investigation. And so I'm more in line with like what Ashton was saying, is like, a normal guy, regardless of whether or not you work for the Dodgers, you're not getting that big of a loan or multiple loans to add up to that amount. and as far as them being able to bet, surely, one, Ohtani's not the guy placing the bet, and that could be the whole thing here. But then two is if Ohtani's not the guy placing the bet, they could be betting on baseball, that other person. So
because he's trying to hide it as well. Like, yeah, it's just kind of a smoking gun.
And then I guess my last thing about it is that it is a little odd to see how these two were practically inseparable. From a lot of sources, they've said that pretty much anytime you'd see Ohtani, you'd see this guy. I mean, he was hired to be the interpreter for him, and to not know at all, to have no knowledge whatsoever that this guy that you're with practically 24/7 has bet this amount of money, and then you're just going to pay it off, or he stole it from you. I think there's way more to it. So yeah, I couldn't say the guy's guilty just yet. I think we'll have to look into it, and it sure would be a shame. But I mean, we definitely need to find out, and that's the question, is if we're ever really going to know the truth.
Let's be honest, though. I'm with Ross. I'm interested in the federal investigation, because MLB's, they're going to investigate, but they are praying they don't find anything or something that they can't just kind of sweep under the rug.
Yeah, you don't want your cash cow going down.
Exactly. And to the point of how did he not see it happening? I know Ohtani has some money, but really you don't see that much money coming out of your bank account, whether it's being stolen. Like I said, I think maybe Ohtani's not placing the bets. Maybe it's not him gambling. It's him helping his friend. The Dodgers are just saying, hey, this looks bad. Get rid of him. Say he stole money. But remember, I think it was last year, the whole Alabama baseball coach gambling, betting on game against LSU. He wasn't placing the bets. He had a person go place the bets for him, but it was kind of damning where the video footage caught right before this guy made the bet, who was his assistant or something, was making calls and then placing the bets. And they went back and looked at the call logs, and the coach was calling him right before he placed the bet. So it's kind of obvious who was placing the bets. So
Right.
I agree. There's no way Ohtani's placing these bets personally, even if he's 100%, it's his bets. He's not doing that because if it's for baseball, he's going to have somebody else do it. And I think that's probably what this interpreter might have been doing. I'm saying there's a lot here. I don't know how guilty he is, but they're covering up a lot. Like if there was nothing going on, if there's nothing wrong going on, there wouldn't be this much cover up.
No, for sure. I mean, they definitely backtracked Misuhara's initial statements just to give an idea of like what the timeline was here. Misuhara had like a interview or something where I believe Shohei Ohtani he was there, but Shohei doesn't speak English, which I'm also going to say I think is weird considering he's been here for 7 years now, going on 8 years. This will be his 8th season. So like that's the math in my head.
Yeah.
And he basically Misuhara said in that interview that he basically had like some gambling debts and that Ohtani like paid them for him. And the Dodgers, once they kind of like got word of this, like immediately contacted that reporter and they were like, nope, that's false. It's not true. Ohtani didn't know anything about it. And they like immediately took that back and filed like a whole theft thing. Now exactly who's looking into this, I'm not exactly sure. I feel like I've read like different jurisdictions taking point in this investigation, so I'm not exactly sure who is in charge here. But I will say that like addicts are very good at like hiding their addictions and stuff. And I agree with you, Ross, in the sense that like Ohtani and Misuhara were like best friends. They met in Japan while Misuhara was interpreter in Japan for English players on a Japanese team. And he met Ohtani during his rookie year with the Rockets in Japan. And then they kept like their relationship going. And he came back to America with Ohtani and basically has been his translator ever since. But you're right. They've been like inseparable. They've been like best friends. And that makes sense to me because like Ohtani doesn't necessarily know a lot of people here. He doesn't speak the language. Of course, you would kind of like latch on to somebody that's like, and especially for, like Japan has like a big like respect thing for like age and everything. And Mizuhara is like 10 years older than Ohtani is. So like I'm sure like that friendship and that like level of trust that Ohtani kind of just had in him was high, and he let him do things. To be honest, I don't have this issue because I'm not exactly like a 10-year, $700 million contract guy, but like I could see how having that kind of contract and that kind of money in your bank keeps you from like checking your bank account regularly until something comes up where like your accountant or somebody says like, hey man, like what's the deal with this? And you're like,
Yeah, and what we
that's
don't
weird.
know, what we'll end up finding out is how that money was coming out or where that money was coming from. He was placing the
I mean,
bets
honestly,
with.
that's kind of my biggest question is why exactly Mizuhara has like direct access to Otani's account and is making these
Mhm.
transfers and stuff. And you know, I mean,
'Cause
I'm
another
inclined
angle
to
that
believe Otani for now, just because nothing has really come out like against him in the sense that like there's
Mhm.
no hard evidence that's like, oh, he, placed these bets or whatever, But I do
Yeah,
have a
I'm just
hard time
saying
believing
like
that he didn't know Mizuhara was at least gambling. I could also see though, like if I'm Otani, I would kind of like, I don't know, turn a blind eye to that because it's not illegal for him to do any gambling. You know what I mean? Like for Otani to do
mhm.
any gambling, like it's not. And if he's not betting on baseball, then it's really not like a big deal, I would think. But
Well,
the
I
real
saw
issue
Kyle
here
in the
is that
chat
it's
and I agree
going
with
through
Kyle.
an
There's no
illegal
way he
bookmaker.
didn't know.
And Ross, let me finish. The problem is that that he's going through an illegal bookmaker in California, and bookmaking gambling is illegal in California. So, Ross, what were you saying?
Oh, I just saw Kyle in the chat and I'm with Kyle. It's like there's just no way he didn't know,
No, well, I mean,
you
I'm
know.
saying it would be hard for that, especially like I agree, but I mean, addicts are pretty damn good at hiding their addiction all the way up until they get found out. You know what I mean? And Some people last
and
longer than others,
it's
but
common that we
there's a
see
lot going on here.
athletes and celebrities that make a lot of money where they have people just, I mean, it's like, hey, we're going to take your money, and they get taken advantage of. I don't know that your interpreter is kind of, I mean, they're friends, so maybe he also deals with that. I just haven't heard anybody say, oh yeah, he's this financial dude too, and that's why um
Yeah.
you would think Otani had, like, if Otani wasn't watching his books that closely where he would know, he should have had somebody watching where they would pick it up. That's why it's just kind of weird. Like, he's been a professional for a long time. Like, he hasn't been, it's not like he just got rich. He's had a guy, he's either done his own stuff or had a guy. Maybe it is his interpreter, maybe it is this guy, but it just seems really fishy. And again, I don't think it necessarily leads back to Otani's gambling. I think Otani was trying to bail him out in at least this, this amount of guilt, trying to bail him out. And the Dodgers were like, this looks way too fishy. Let's not do this. And then the Dodgers were the one that, are kind of pushing him to, he stole. I think that's completely fabricated. I don't think this interpreter stole any money from him. My opinion.
Well,
anyway.
and there's a way for Ohtani to influence it. One aspect we thought, if Ohtani wasn't directly giving him money, right, or he didn't have access to just pull money out of the account.
Yeah.
Like, one idea has been, what are you going to get to prove to somebody that you have, like, Ohtani's got me covered, bro. I'm his best friend. I'm his interpreter. Here's a signed autographed picture. You know what I mean?
Something. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
No,
kind of
it's
stuff.
definitely something more than that, you know.
So it's like, it's more than likely that Ohtani had at least knowledge of it, if not had some sort of influence in him getting that big of a credit over time or one time or what, I don't know. And that's what we'll have to find out.
I mean, I agree. I think it's pretty unlikely that Ohtani didn't know anything about it. I think it's pretty likely that because they kind of got caught, his representatives, his lawyers, the Dodgers and everything were like, nope, like, he stole it from you. We can't get caught doing that. And again, I think the biggest issue here is that it's not that these, bets were being made in Vegas. They were being made with an illegal bookkeeper in Orange County. And I feel like, I guess that's the biggest thing I think is the dumbest part of the story is it's like, why not just if you're betting on soccer games or football games or hockey or
Just
whatever it is,
in Vegas.
go to Vegas for the weekend, go to Atlantic City, place your bets, hang out, watch the game, win your money or lose your money and go home or something, especially
you want
if
to keep
you're
it off
talking about gambling for that amount of money, why not just travel to where it's legal? I don't know.
If I go to my illegal guy, I'm off the record and I'll never get caught.
Right. But I also want to say that if you're gambling with an illegal bookkeeper and you win big, there's a real good chance that they just take your money and they don't give you anything. Because, why would they pay you? They don't have to. It's all illegal, So it's like if they owe you millions because you won big, fuck you, why? So, I mean, there's just as much risk, in my opinion, going to an illegal bookkeeper, unless you just don't have that line of credit that we're basically talking about and you keep losing and you get in deep with these sharks. That changes the story a little bit. You know what I mean? So I mean, I agree. I think we're all kind of on the same page. I think Shohei Ohtani knew something. I definitely don't think he's ever going to say how much he knew, especially now with the way everything's going.
Yeah.
And
it just looks bad for
Misuhara.
Ohtani to pay a bookie. Like, this terrible.
I mean, they're definitely trying to make Misuhara the scapegoat for this whole thing too. They've punched a bunch of holes into his resume as far as what he's been doing since after high school. They showed that he didn't go to college where he said he went to college. He also said he worked for the Red Sox as an interpreter. The Red Sox have come forward and said he's never worked for our organization in any capacity. And then obviously he was in Japan as an interpreter. In 2013, that's when he met Ohtani, and then he, came to LA with him and moved to the Dodgers and now all of this, but they're obviously trying to kind of make him the martyr by punching holes in his story, punching holes in his resume, making him an unbelievable character and a liar, more or less. And I think that's going to help save Ohtani from any guilt that he has, any
Yeah, I
sins that
mean,
he's committed.
in situations like this, it's what's the most obvious answer, and that's probably what happens. It sounds like maybe Otani knew that his interpreter was a gambling addict. I think Otani knew about it, and then it got to a point where it's like, "Hey, man, can you just bail me out?" He does it, and there's now a payment from Otani to a bookie or to his friend, and then to a bookie. However it
Well, the
it
biggest
shows
problem is that
up.
it is straight from Otani's account to the
Okay,
bookkeeper.
and this looks bad. And he's like, "Well, I was
That
bailing my
looks real
friend
bad.
out." And now MLB is like, "No, no, 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 no. You didn't. Dodgers, MLB, whoever. No, you didn't do that. He stole from you."
Right.
That's why,
That's
like, if it just came out that he stole from him, and we knew nothing before that, it seems like okay, that's more believable. But the fact that he was trying to bail his friend out, or at least say, "Hey, I'm bailing my friend out. I did this," when he's been stealing from you, usually don't start that way. And the story kind of changed. I think what Otani originally said was the truth, but then and he's like, "I didn't do anything wrong. I bailed my friend out." And baseball's like the Dodgers are like, "You realize how bad this looks. This is the story you're going to tell. We're not losing our cash cow." I think
Yeah.
right
that's what happened, honestly.
for sure. And I mean, even it's in MLB's best interest. Otani sells more tickets than any player in the league.
And
Everybody's like on the lookout for this kid,
yeah, and
like,
if
and
Otani's
especially
doing
since
this,
he's about to start the first year of that 10-year contract.
yeah,
There's a lot of investment in this
and,
kid.
and if Otani is actually doing this and gambling and trying to hide it, why is he sending? Like, you think he'd be smarter than just to pay off his bookie straight
Yeah.
from his account like that? But I don't know. There are 5 different stories you could tell here, and each one there's I don't know because of this. There's not one straight up like this is obvious. Because there's so many different outcomes here.
There really are. And I mean, the crazy thing is Otani could be completely innocent. He could be. He could also be completely guilty. He could totally be the one that's been like, "Oh, let's make some extra fucking money." Like, and it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest, in either way, whatever the outcome is. Because I mean, I take that back. I would be kind of surprised if he was terribly guilty of like actually gambling. Because like, can you imagine? I don't know, man. I guess I can't wrap my head around like wanting to gamble like a lot, like a degenerate, after signing a 10-year, $700 million contract. You know what I mean? I don't know. There's just
Yeah,
something. Maybe that's just me.
because he's
Maybe I'm
only
just
getting
more
paid two
frugal in
million a
that
year.
sense. My old
It's all
age or
deferred.
whatever.
He's only getting paid 2 million now, so he's like, I got to make that money now.
Yeah,
Well,
maybe.
I
Right?
would say if it's happening, chances are Otani is not the only player in the MLB to have somebody that they, can give money to place bets. Like, and I think, we might find that out if, they do a good enough investigation. But I'm with you. I don't think they will do the good enough investigation. But if Otani's doing it, surely he's not the only one. So, like, I'm saying
Definitely
if he's
not.
directly like, okay, I can gamble and make extra money. Who wouldn't?
Yeah.
I mean, people get greedy, man. And I mean, even as nice of a character as they've built for him in the media, we don't know who he really is.
That's true.
Yeah.
So,
It
And I
would
mean,
seem like
how?
if somebody's placing bets for players, they're doing it in a legal way. Not legal as obviously it's against the rules, but there's a guy that lives in Vegas and he runs a business and players pay him for that business and he takes that money on the side and gambles or something like that.
Yeah.
Like you would, I
yeah.
would think you'd be using a bookie for this. Like I know it's off the record or it's all, it's not written and there's no receipts because it's a bookie.
Sure.
But it's so simple to send money, and you can do it like a guy could. There's people in Vegas that do this illegally. I mean, it has to be, and it's sort of like money laundering, where they just have a business as a front. They don't do that business. They use that to take money in, and then they can pay it out. So Otani's or any player sending
Yeah,
money
see,
to this
I guess
business.
I guess that's even part of what I'm saying, right? Like, wouldn't it even be easier / smarter to use like some kind of like proxy server or something to
Yeah.
change your location and like I can't change your geolocation and like bet on your phone or whatever, saying you're in a place that can place those
But
bets or
like,
whatever, you know.
like, yeah, for us, because our resources are limited. We're in Texas, and
Sure.
we can't just pay somebody to gamble for us in Vegas. But when you have millions of dollars and you know people, and all you have to do is text somebody on a burner phone and say, "Hey, place this bet for
Well,
me."
that's almost
That's very
like, I
true,
think
yeah.
that's going to end up being the kind of the key is like with this guy being an employee of the Dodgers and of Shohei, it's like, what place were you in that you got to know this guy? Like, you know, again, if this was all in the up and up, you know, all three of us have asked the question, why not just go do it legally? And so there probably is something to the fact that it's being done illegally, you know, with bookie.
Well, I mean,
And
I guess I also want to like just throw out there for the sake of argument, right? Like, how much can we actually blame like a player or the players in this situation with how incredibly fast sports gambling has been growing in this country? Like in the last 5-10 years, it's been exponential. Hell, we promoted a sports betting sponsor on this show today as we started this episode, you know, and we've been doing it for weeks. You know what I mean? So it's like sports betting is like so much more prevalent now than it ever has been before. I almost feel like it's foolish to like scold athletes for like doing it too. And like I understand not letting like fighters, you know, bet on fighting or, you know, baseball players bet on baseball and etc. But I mean, is it really like their fault when it's, you know, sponsoring every sporting event out there, when it's in your face for
Yeah.
every, you know, ESPN has its own ESPN Bets app and like channel show where they talk purely about gambling. You know what I mean? So, I mean, is it the player's fault? I mean, or are we just like, you know, sports betting? I mean, how can you not? How can you not?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's ridiculous how quickly it's gone. Where they were, I remember when,
Glow up media. I hear you. How could this
yeah,
happen?
yeah, really. I can't remember the casino, but it was a basketball team. If I want to remember, I'm not getting too much because I don't even remember. But they wanted them as a sponsor, not even like to the stadium rights or anything, just a sponsor, and it was blasphemy. You couldn't have it. It was like a news story that they were trying to get them in, and this may have been 10 years ago or something. And now you have, what is it? The Saints, the Superdome is
Caesar's
uh,
Palace.
Caesar's Palace. I know here locally, the old Ranger Stadium. It's a football /
Yeah,
rugby
now it's
field.
Choctaw.
Choctaw.
Yeah, for the
WinStar
Arlington
sponsors the
Renegades, it's
Dallas
Choctaw.
Cowboys. It's just
Yeah, it's
ridiculous how,
everywhere.
and all these betting apps are sponsoring these teams too. And I mean, even though it's illegal in Texas, I may or may not have an app that not legally lets me do it, but I'm not going out of my way to do. I may or may not be doing parlays, and I don't know how it works or why it lets me. But I mean, for heaven's sake, Tony Romo couldn't do his fantasy football convention one year because like fantasy football is gambling. I mean, kind of, but it's not really.
Right.
Like you're just putting money in beforehand. It doesn't even really under the definition. You've gone from that just so recently to all of a sudden it's just like now you're about to have 4 teams in Vegas. Like four of the major professional sports in Vegas was ever they never had a team. You get a WNBA team, then a hockey team, and then all of a sudden everybody's moving to Vegas.
Yeah. I mean,
That's my rant for the night.
I mean,
I'm
for
done.
well said, Ashton.
yeah,
All right.
I think ultimately Ohtani, Dodgers fans are all more disappointed that this is a sad distraction from what should be like a happy time of, you know, opening day and the beginning of a season and what should be like a really incredible season for them. And instead they've just got this huge kind of black mark, you know,
Yeah.
over their faces and as they're getting ready to start. But as I kind of mentioned opening day, I really want to talk about the Rangers. But as we get into talking about the Rangers, I can finally make my little reveal wearing this sweet shirt as kind of a part of celebration. But I finally picked out
Rangers.
a baseball card set that I decided to collect here. These are called
Nice.
Topps Heritage. These ones are actually 2023. The 2024 set doesn't actually come out until April 10th, which I'm hoping to get my hands on and get a few of those. There's obviously some sweet rookie cards that I'm trying to get my hands on. 2 of them are for the Rangers. We'll talk about them here shortly in Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. What a beast. But I got this box. I actually got a few of them. I figured tonight I might just go ahead and open a few packs. I think there's like 7 or 8 packs in here. I figure I might open 2 or 3. I'll make some shorts to go ahead and put on our social media and everything. So if you want to see what else is in here, give us a like and follow on those social media platforms at Peak One Sports. But I figure I can open a few of these while we. Oh, these look cool. I actually kind of forgot to mention, but so these are Topps Heritage. They're called Topps Heritage because they are modeled after the old school 1974 baseball cards. So they're, like modern day players, whatever, but they have a like kind of an old school look / feel to them. I've always been give away some cards for loyal viewers. We might be able to work something like that out in the future. To be honest, right now, I think that I'm just kind of doing cards for my own kind of collection here. Try and move my microphone out of the way a little bit here, but. So,
and there's going to be a bigger part of this eventually. That's all.
Yeah,
I
for
don't
sure.
even know if it's any kind of reveal or surprise. Yeah.
Taylor Walls.
I haven't collected baseball cards in so long. I remember I used to have.
I haven't done this in a long time, but when I was a kid, I used to do it a lot more, and I had some really cool like Nolan Ryan rookie cards and stuff. I've since lost them in different ways. But
I used to have some of like
cards.
cool rookie cards, and then I would think, are these worth anything? Because
I'm not gonna lie to you. I think this is I'm gonna have to look it up, but I think this is like a really good pull that we managed to get out of like this first pack here. But that's an autograph if y'all can see that.
That's pretty cool. Maybe we should send Jay Villy one of those cards you just opened with an autograph on it, Dan. You got a pretty autograph, don't you?
Yeah, about that. This is mostly just going to be like my collection. I'm bringing y'all along on the ride, but that's definitely Clayton Kershaw. And I'm not going to lie to you. I'm pretty excited about that one. That one looks pretty cool. Jay Villy trying to get some cards. Maybe when I come see you for your wedding, I'll actually bring you this or something. This is actually really cool. I'm going to have to do a little research and see what this actually is, but I'm not going to lie to you. I think this is a really sweet pull. And that was the very first pack that I unwrapped. So I'm really excited about that. Clayton Kershaw,
these people are excited about these cards.
Yeah, you're not even gonna send Kevin a card, Dan.
Actually,
his personal collection, Ross. Come on.
I mean, yeah, right. Let's just get on board a guy who's like starting to, collect some baseball cards. To be honest,
start giving them away.
I wanted to start doing this last year, but I could never really pick like what cards or like what set to get behind. And then I literally just a few weeks ago found out about this heritage set, and I was like, these are really cool, and I like the throwback style of it and everything. So, like, maybe we'll check some of those out. And I came across these boxes for the 2023 cards were on sale, so I snatched up a few for the channel. Thought it would be a cool one to just kind of get into. I like the old school kind of look of the cards, and definitely wanted to get my hands on a few of like the Rangers cards and stuff. But I feel like I've been saying for a few years, like there are certain players in the league that if you have like their rookie cards and stuff, like they're going to be worth some money. We've got I got some written down here: Mark Trumbo, Mike Trout, Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, obviously. Like there's so many guys that I would love to get my hands on. Plus guys that I remember like watching growing up and everything, like, Derek Jeter, Alex Rodriguez. There's a handful of Rangers I'd love to name off. Adrian Beltre, Michael Young, Prince Fielder,
Josh Hamilton, man.
Ivan Rodriguez, like
Pudge, yeah.
Yeah, could you imagine having like a Pudge card or like a Juan Gonzalez or something like that, So I mean, I just remember like there were always so many really cool cards to have when we were kids and everything. I thought it'd be a cool little thing to inject here with baseball season kind of starting up and everything. Share a little bit of this collection and everything, but let's also talk some Rangers while we do this. Super pumped for opening day tomorrow. Nathan Eovaldi gets the nod against the Cubbies. Justin Steele. Y'all got any outlooks on that? Like looking forward to anything? I mean, we're pretty much going to run it back. Most of the roster is the same. Got a few new guys in there. A couple of guys kind of subbing in the pitching rotation temporarily while we wait for our aces to get back. But thoughts, Ashton? You're obviously repping the set with the World Series shirt there.
Similar feeling to when the Mavericks won, where it's hard to get mad. Like, we were disappointed. They went back to the playoffs and were one and done, but it's like, it's fun. You're the defending champs. Until somebody else wins, you are the defending champs. You also get to add that this year the Rangers host the All-Star game, and there's going to be a lot of fun stuff going on. Unless they just, lay an egg and start out really bad and, play around 500 or below, it's hard to be upset. Like, it's going to be a fun season. You're going to go play. You're going to have more national games. You're going to go places where people are actually going to think, it's going to be a significant game because they're playing the defending champs. You're going to go to New York and probably get booed a little bit. Whereas past seasons, you go to New York and that's kind of like the game that, okay, it's cheap tickets. Let's go to the game and watch them play the Rangers, But you're defending champs. It's going to be fun. I'm going to be pumped to watch them play the Astros because now you have some skin in the game where it's obviously had a great series going 7 games and obviously a lot of craziness and rivalry stuff happening where now the Astros and Rangers are a good rivalry now, not because they're in the same state and the Astros were bad when the Rangers were good and then it swapped and cheating and all this stuff. You go back and forth and you want to say bad things about the Astros. But after that series last year, once they went 7 games, you have a lot to be excited about. And most everybody's picking it. The Astros and Rangers in whatever order are going to be the 2 teams competing for this division. And both teams should be really good. And I think it's going to be a fun year. It's going to be really exciting. A lot of cool cards.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I always like to say the Astros cheated, just kind of as a reminder. But I just think we got better, too. I mean, having guys get pulled up that showed up in the playoffs that helped them win the World Series. I'm super excited to see everybody back this year, to see how much better we got. Anytime you got Bochy as your manager, it's probably going to be a good year just in general. So I'm excited about that. But yeah, being the defending champs is something that we haven't been able to say in the Dallas area for a while. And so I'm super excited to see him start off. And I don't feel too bad about him starting out against the Cubs, Surely there's a lot better teams that they could have started out against that I would have been a little more nervous about, but I guess we'll see how it goes.
It's a significant team, though. That's exciting. It's not, no offense to anybody, but it's not like you're playing the Rockies or the Marlins or something, 2 teams that haven't done, and you're playing the Cubs. Like, yeah, they've struggled a little bit recently, but it's a significant team to play. And just like you were talking about, they got better. I mean, you just obviously get better because Josh Young is getting a little bit better. Evan Carter is getting a little bit better. It's exciting for Wyatt Langford too. And even Josh Young is still in that exciting young, let's see what he can do. So you have 3 really good players.
Got such a young team, young, sexy team.
And you have 2 rookies, Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford. Like, it's a shame that one of, like, I think, no, Wyatt Langford wouldn't be eligible for Rookie of the Year next year because he's starting so early, at the beginning of the season. So it's going to be unfortunate that one of those guys aren't going to have the Rookie of the Year, AL Rookie of the Year on their resume because they're both coming up at the same time. But it's going to be exciting. I can't wait.
I was reading up on Evan Carter and Wyatt Langford, and they're 2 of the top like Rookie of the Year candidates, which I think is awesome. And basically, I'm kind of stealing this line from them. I wish I could remember where exactly I read it, but basically what they were saying was, like, they're obviously there's another player in Atlanta, I think it is, who's also like a big Rookie of the Year candidate, but even if neither one of these guys like wins Rookie of the Year, but they're in like contention for it, is great news because it means they're doing what like we expect them to be doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like even if they come up short, and like you said, Ashton, they're obviously both not going to win, but if they're both in the race, I feel like that's great for Rangers' future. We're talking about like such a great young team starting off like strong on this, World Series run that we just had coming back this year. I think the biggest hump for us to get over, and I definitely wanted to talk about this a little bit, Jacob DeGrom and Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer looking pretty good on his recovery. They say he may be able to return by late May, but I feel like that's pretty optimistic. We'll see how it goes. But Jacob DeGrom not expected to come back until August, probably at the earliest after his elbow surgery.
And
So
if they're and you expect, I mean, being champs and you brought back the team. I know they weren't the best team in last season, and they were defied odds. You know, they weren't obviously the best team in the playoffs. They played the best, especially on the road. But you would expect the Rangers to be in playoff contention, and you hope they're in contention enough where they can hold off on DeGrom and do it better on their timeline to get them ready for the playoffs, as opposed to they're in a tight race and we need to rush DeGrom back to, maybe there's injuries, starting pitching injuries. I don't know. Luckily, Chris Young has done a good job of building the depth of this. You have eight starting pitchers on this roster in this lineup that if it wasn't for injuries, and I know Andrew Heaney's kind of like a spot starter, you really want to have him paired with somebody else to really get you 7 innings. But there's a lot of depth here, and the fact that you can put 5 quality starters in this rotation when you still have Scherzer and DeGrom on the injured list is phenomenal. I think. I mean, there's not a whole lot of weaknesses in this team. Definitely, their defense is one of their top. I mean, looking at their pitching rotation is probably the biggest weakness, and that's
We'll just throw this out there because I have it written down real
defense.
quick. Our pitching rotation, before we get DeGrom and Scherzer back, as of right now, Nathan Eovaldi, John Gray, Andrew Heaney, Dane Dunning, and then we just signed Michael Lorenzen to put into our rotation. So honestly, like not a terrible pitching lineup while we like wait for Scherzer and then DeGrom to come back. Sorry to throw you off your rhythm there, Ashton.
No, you're good. No, I didn't want to. I just got in a groove and I was talking. Yeah,
Yeah. Jay Villy's got a good one here. The Rangers win the World Series again, or Chiefs win the Super Bowl again?
More likely, I would say the Chiefs. I mean, the Rangers aren't going to be favored by any chance. They have a good roster. I think they overperformed in the playoffs last year. But now that they've been there, they have the success. There's definitely a thing of as a losing and winning mentality and a losing and winning atmosphere that they have that now. And then who knows all these young stars, how they're going to perform. I'll tell you, Evan Carter thinks, hey, we're going to win the World Series every year now because he played a month and a half and got a ring out of it.
Yeah, for sure. Right. All right. I'm going to open one more of these while we kind of talk my last Rangers topic here. I wanted to get kind of some thoughts and opinions about what you guys think about the cost of going to opening day. Now, I did just see recently that Rangers obviously have some of the highest opening day ticket prices, and that's kind of to be expected, World Series champs, that first game of the season and everything. But just as a little bit of fun here, we'll play a little game. Guess the ticket prices. I got about 4 different sections here. They're pretty close to the same. I got upper deck along the first baseline, upper deck along the third baseline, and then I've got some seats that are kind of field level behind the home dugout and field level behind the away dugout. So starting with the and I've got opening day, and I've also got game 2 or the Rangers game on Saturday as the second option. So let's just start with opening day with the upper deck first baseline ticket prices. What are you guys thinking? What do you think it costs to go see?
Deck, first baseline?
Yeah.
Upper deck, first base. In general, I haven't been to a lot of the games in the new stadium. In the old stadium, that's probably like a $20 ticket. In general, in the new stadium, probably a $30 or $40 ticket for opening day, winning the World Series, defending champs. I'd say $200.
Okay, Ross.
Mm.
Check out.
I
Some
think
of
I'm gonna
these
go. I'm gonna go on the high side. You said it's on first base line.
Yeah, upper deck, first base.
Upper deck, first base. World Series champs. Opening day. I'm gonna say $750.
Holy smokes.
Wow. That okay. Ross, you're kind of high. Ashton, you said 200.
Yeah, $200.
You're a little low.
Okay.
Just so we don't have to stretch this out too much. To be honest, you guys are kind of right on the opposite ends of the spectrum. Ross, it's about half what you guessed.
Okay.
That's a lot.
So upper deck first base, I found about an average right around like $344 a ticket. $344. Upper deck first base. So with that in mind, upper deck third base, what do you think?
I feel like that's
$300.
going to be a little less, don't you think?
Yeah, I'm just gonna throw $300 out there.
It's pretty close. It's around the same, to be honest, about 335.
Okay.
Well,
But
I guess
and remember, this is
335.
all upper deck. And to be honest, what's crazy? I don't even
For
hate
one
the upper
ticket,
deck.
you think,
and it's
two
one ticket.
going,
One ticket.
yeah, if I'm taking my wife or my kid, that's $800.
Yeah, easy.
When
right?
you talk about parking and fees and all that,
Yeah, and that's before you spend any money
they
on
parked and in the door.
Yeah, right. So, and I mean, I love the upper deck. Don't get it twisted, man. You can see the whole field. Like it's a good view. It looks great, right? There's nothing wrong with the upper deck, but that's a lot of money, right? All right. So, with that in mind, we drop it down to the field level, right? And we're gonna go to the dugout, home and away. There's a fair difference here, but they're definitely expensive. What do you got for me, Ross? Opening
And
day
these are
behind the home dugout. What do you think it's going to cost you?
$1,000.
Okay. Ashton, what do you
I'll
got?
go with Ross's original answer. An upper deck, $750.
Okay, you're both under. Actually, it's gonna be
Under. Oh my
about
god.
$1,250 to sit behind the home
I hope
dugout.
this is just because of demand. I hope this isn't like I want the Rangers to go back where you can get in. Like, I don't know. I remember we used to get in for $6 or $7 if we really wanted to. I get it's a new stadium, but that's ridiculous.
You guys are like Ross. Actually, you're kind of like right on the money with the away dugout. It's about $970.
Wow.
So about $1,000 to sit behind the away dugout at the Rangers game.
You'll just you got us right, Dan. You could get 3 of those for us.
Oh yeah, for sure. Right.
Yeah.
On me, boys. Here we go. All right. So
keeping
this in mind, right?
Well,
let's say that the upper deck average, both on first base and third base, was about 350. Let's just keep that in mind, right? For game 2 on Saturday against the same team, it's against the Cubs. It's the second game of the season. Same seats. What do you think it would cost you?
$100. Like, I think it's still going to be high. It's the opening series. It's against the Cubs. Usually, it's going to be higher when you play the Cubs.
I'll go 225.
225 from Ross.
225.
Believe it or not, you're both wrong. Ashton, you're pretty close. It's about $80.
What?
About
I mean,
$80.
That's still pretty high, but I guess the sticker shock from the first game, or like, because $80 should get you lower level top, first 10 rows, maybe not behind home plate.
Sure. I mean, I agree with that. Normally, that I feel like that's about what I pay to get like my lower level first base side seats, something like $60.
How much are all you can eat seats for opening day? That's what I want to know.
Right. I'll admit I didn't look that up, and I didn't really look at.
I don't even know if they have all you can eat seats anymore.
I was just kind of looking at first and third base line. I did think about trying to find some prices for like home plate, right behind home plate and stuff, but I didn't worry about that too much. But yeah, for upper deck game 2. I got $79 for first base and about $71 for third base. So it's like a third of the cost of going to opening day to go to game 2. Keeping that in mind, right? The home dugout was about $1,200. The away dugout about $1,000. What do you think it costs you to sit behind the home dugout at the second game?
Well, you said it was about a third, so I'm gonna go $400.
Just to be different, 500.
Ross, you're right on track. It's about a third. It's about $350.
Okay.
Right. So to sit behind the home place dugout on the second game would cost you about the same as what it costs you to sit upper deck on opening day.
Great. Wow.
And here's the real conversation that I want to have. Ashton, as the Duke fan of the basketball team headed to the Sweet 16 here in Dallas.
Yes, shout out. Tony,
would you rather for $350 to $400 sit in the upper deck of that Sweet 16 game watching Duke take on Houston? Or would you rather spend that same amount of money per ticket to go to opening day, Texas Rangers versus the Cubs?
So when Duke first won, the next game was Houston, Texas A&M, and Tony is a Texas A&M fan. And I looked up tickets and I told him, like, you want to go? It's about $260 a ticket, the cheapest one I could find if it's Texas A&M, which if Texas A&M, it might have gone higher than that. If I was going to pay that to go to one or the other, I would choose Duke because it seems it would hard. I mean, it's a Sweet 16. It's not just like they're only going to play in Dallas unless they play TCU, which would be very rare. It would have to be an NCAA tournament deal, which it's here almost every year, whether Dallas or Fort Worth or something. But I think it would be more rare. Like, who knows the next time Duke is going to play here? I mean, you're always going to have opening day, but are you going to have opening day right after a World Series championship? I don't know. I still think you have the potential to win a championship every single year. So chances are, I think the Rangers would be more likely to come back. So I would pick Duke. And I've never been to a college basketball game. So I've been to tons of Rangers games.
All these extra incentives. Ross, I mean, same question. You're not a Duke fan or anything necessarily, but I feel like it's a kind
Kansas
of
was
point of reference
here
and everything to talk about. Like, would you rather go see a Sweet 16 NCAA March Madness basketball game, or would you rather go to see the opening day game for the Texas Rangers?
Well, at this point in my life, I think I've been Texified enough that outside of it being Kansas, because I can see Ashton's point. I mean, that's a good point. It's your school and it's a Sweet 16 game. So, I mean, if it were Duke and anybody besides Kansas, I would probably take opening day, just especially coming off a World Series. Yeah, I mean, opening day would be the way to go for me.
It makes sense.
And I don't know. I know there's a lot of people that
I'm not saying.
Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer here for sure. Viewers, let us know. Comment down below and let us know what you think. I honestly think there's value to both. I've known a lot of people that have gone to opening day almost kind of like religiously as like a tradition. They get like season tickets, and you get those opening day tickets when you do that usually. So they kind of go as like a group or family or whatever, and they make a day of it. And I think that's awesome. Like, that's a cool tradition to have, like, as a family and stuff. I feel like if I'm spending the money on it, though, like just to go to the one game, I would rather see like the playoff level competition, even the college like camaraderie and team spirit and whatever. As far as just all of that, I guess. I love the Rangers. I love baseball. I don't know, like that first game of the season just doesn't feel like it's got the same kind of gravity, I guess,
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I like Ashton said, like I feel like there's value to having both, but there's just not a right or wrong answer necessarily, but I definitely think you can make a great argument for both. I mean, both could be a great time. Both could be historic games. You never know in the world of sports. So,
and the fact that you made me choose when I checked, because I was going to say, well, what time are they? Do I have to choose? I don't have to choose because Duke doesn't play till Friday.
That's true. It's not.
You've
It's
done
not
that
the
to
same day.
you tricked me.
A little.
I should have checked and said, dude,
I
I'm not
was
going
going
to
more of
answer
a-
that because I don't have to answer that.
I was
I
throwing
think
more
you
of a
should make him-
philosophical
I think he
conundrum.
To be
has
at
to
fair,
that
I'm
point.
not going to spend $1,000 to go to both either. But
Dan has to buy the tickets to both for you now.
Oh, was that-
honestly, I would rather
don't-
just go tailgate party. Like that's where you're going to get the most excitement. Yeah, it's cool to see the banner drop. That'd be awesome. But go party, tailgate, and then when the game starts, go to Texas Live and party some more.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you just
It's
spend
actually a
whatever-
really good
whatever.
idea. I think I may
If
go
you're going to
Texas
spend
Live
500,
right now.
yeah, right. If you're going to spend $500, spend it on booze and food, right?
Oh, for sure.
Because you're going to be broke when you get into the stadium. You're not going to have any money for any of that.
Right. All right. Well, I guess Ross has to say bye to us a little early. He's got some, things to take care of. We
Peace out,
appreciate
Ross.
that. Just before
Peace
he goes,
out,
though,
man.
just sharing these last things. I opened 3 packs for those that were kind of paying attention. We got this sweet Clayton Kershaw thing, autograph. We got this. I'm not exactly sure what this is, but these are all like throwback players. I know it's real hard to see with my camera here, but it's also got like this perforated edge where like you can kind of stamp it out. I know it's real hard to see there. I might make a short just to show these 3, and then we got this Giancarlo Stanton, which
That's pretty nice.
looking clean. That's a good looking card, right? So, but thanks for hanging out with us and everything, Ross. We got a few more things to keep talking about, so everybody just hang in there. But wanted to make sure Ross got the proper send off and everything. We always appreciate having the
Yeah, way better than getting voted off like last time.
We need to get fireworks going. We need fireworks when Ross gets off.
That would be
well,
sweet.
when we like upgrade our StreamYard and start developing all our super cool special effects and everything, Ashton and I are learning new cool tech stuff all the time, so we're real excited to do more of that. And we will make sure to like find some cool ways to send our tribesmen off and have a good time.
Sounds like
I do want to ask Ross, what do you think about this so far? I know I kind of adopted it a little bit without like the necessarily a green light, I guess, but I've been going with Peak One Tribe. What do you think?
Man, it's catchy
for our listeners. Yeah, for our listeners.
It's
yeah,
catchy,
for our listeners,
especially for the listeners. Oh yeah, I like that. But I think we should have the listeners and like the audience.
Yeah, we could figure something out. Maybe like design some kind of
there
month.
Yeah, there
are
a few different ones that we've. I know Dan gave us a long list, and I've shared it with Tony and other people. There's a few that we kind of like. That's a good idea, Ross. We'll get a poll together and see what
that is a good idea.
What our great listeners want to be called.
Yeah,
well, I feel like
boys,
I've just been going with it. I've just been going with it the last couple of weeks, but yeah, man, good seeing you, Ross.
Peace out.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
See, Landon agrees. Landon says run a poll. I agree. I think that's a great idea. How are you doing that, by the way? I know I'm like interrupting live stream. Here.
Just click on it. Just click on it.
Oh, I see. It says show. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just click on it.
I guess.
So
that's cool.
So here, this is the time to mention, because when we named this station, we had no idea what we were doing. And the initials are POS. So should we call us POSers? Or I don't think that's what our fans want to be called.
Do we just get real aggressive with it and just call everybody shitters?
What is it? What's that movie? Accepted.
South
Harmon, and so they're the shitheads, the South Harmon shitheads or whatever.
Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll just embrace it. Like, don't try to hide it. Like, let's just embrace it.
Right? Yeah, lean into it. That's what I'm saying.
POS.
Like, take the good with the bad and just keep it going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you might as well.
I know, right? All right. Well, Ashton, Ross left us just a little bit early, but I think that's fine. I was going to finish up with us just kind of talking about the upcoming March Madness, Sweet 16 games and everything. Talk about our brackets a little bit.
Ross talk anyways. Kansas is out. He wouldn't want to talk. I think he wanted to jump off because he didn't want to talk about Kansas.
I mean, maybe that's exactly what it was. And I mean, if I'm being completely honest, I was a little stunned by that upset. I was not expecting Kansas.
In unrelated news, if Duke loses Friday, I will be sick for a few weeks, so I can't be on the show.
You just won't make it.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
Let's see if I can.
Hmm.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
so in theory, my bracket looks okay because I still have my Final Four. But as we mentioned before, I picked a very safe Final Four. So it's a lot of the same teams that a lot of people have. So it's not necessarily doing great,
Sure.
but
No, that's why I like kind of pulled it up here. The first one, I guess we can kind of mention here. Sports page and you are tied, as you can see, kind of here on my thing. I'll scroll down a little further so you can actually see my sad bracket here. I'm second to last. Not doing so great, but my final four is still intact. I believe I might be missing one in my
yeah,
final four. I might have had Wisconsin. Now that I'm thinking about it, in my final four that already got eliminated. But
yeah,
Ashton, you seem to be doing all right, tied here with our group bracket at 11, which has been doing like surprisingly well. Obviously, there's a lot of movement as far as bracket rankings go during that first weekend because there's a lot of games going on and everything. And then you got Ross after that in seventh, doing pretty well. Ross had a little bit of a fumble where he forgot to pick his champion and punch in a final score for the game. But
yeah.
I
That
guess
won't affect him until the end, though. But
yeah, we won't hold that against him until that final game. But
he was going to pick
unfortunately,
Kansas anyway,
his
so
his
let's just
champion was Kansas, who was
yeah.
already
So
eliminated. So that changes things
it worked
just a
itself
little
out.
bit. And then Chris is actually doing the best out of our little group here in sixth place, which has been funny because that first couple of days, Chris's bracket was like second or third place, I think,
Yeah,
uh, ranked for a while, and then I guess he missed a couple, dropped down just a little bit, but um, shout out to a few of these other brackets going on here. Rachel Tom is actually my cousin. Shout out, she's doing better at this than I thought, and I'm definitely gonna end up owing her a 6 pack of beer or something after this if I lose. So we'll see what happens.
if
Uh,
if
and No Low Sports, man, that bracket is insane. If you've looked at it, he's or they have I think like two wrong picks, and they're very minor. Um, their bracket looks amazing. Like I almost like, man, for a while through that first weekend, I genuinely thought No Low Sports used like AI or something to get
I
their.
mean, more power to you. If I
I
mean,
mean, if they were smart enough to do it, I guess, right? I didn't think of that. And if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So,
yeah.
if
Is there a rule against it though?
I mean, we didn't say you couldn't, right?
I
Like, I
mean,
mean,
what if I
we
asked
didn't.
you for advice on my bracket? Would that be cheating? What's the difference between asking AI? Is AI any better at picking than?
I mean, I feel like AI is going to be able to like, like Betalytics. They're able to like run more simulations a lot faster than we are in our heads, and like give you the average of like,
Yeah,
60 something percent of the time. You know what I mean?
I feel like Chat
60% of the time it
GPT would
works
pick
every
pick
time. Like,
UConn and Houston and all them in the Final Four as well. But yeah, I guess those early. I mean, that's where you win your game. That's where you win your brackets is the first couple of rounds, getting the right upsets. Because if most people have relatively the same Elite Eight, Final Four, then you're not going to make up much difference there.
no, I totally agree with that. Um, I mean, I honestly, I think this bracket has been crazy good. March
Yeah,
Madness so far has been awesome. There have not been nearly as many upsets as I probably would have guessed or hoped for. To be honest, I think we're under the average, especially in the second round of the tournament. There were there were only two upsets, and if I'm being completely honest, I'm not even going to call them upsets. Number 5 Gonzaga beats number 4 Kansas. Not a huge upset. That's a pretty clean
yeah. I
matchup.
mean, we knew Kansas
And
was hurt too.
and number 6 Clemson lays down number 3 Baylor.
That
Again,
that that
in
was
my
good.
book, that's not a huge upset. It's pretty
Yeah,
close.
it was
I
surprising,
guess
but
in
yeah,
my head, if you match up any two top 10 type teams,
it could go either
um,
way. Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty close. And obviously, the closer their rankings, the more close I think the game is probably going to be. And I mean, they were fairly competitive games. Gonzaga over Kansas was kind of a beating. Kansas wasn't really close in that one, hardly at all.
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it was over pretty early.
Yeah. But I mean, other than that, though, there just haven't been like a lot of upsets. Most of these games have gone exactly the way they were supposed to. There's only one team remaining that's outside the top 10, which is number 11 NC State. And then, to be honest, the highest ranked remaining team after that is number 6 Clemson. So, I mean, it should be very competitive basketball from here on out, especially starting with this weekend. Just kind of wanted to talk about that just a little bit. Top games you're kind of looking forward to, teams that like you think might look the best right now. Let's start with that. Who do you think actually looks the best right now in the tournament so far?
UConn for sure.
Man,
They
UConn looks
haven't
good.
really missed a step. Houston's been really well. I'd like to think Duke, but they look like they were struggling that first game, although they won pretty comfortably. I have a couple of reasons why Houston and Duke will be, very intriguing. One, because obviously I'm a Duke fan, but two, I have Houston winning it all. So there won't be mixed feelings either way. I mean,
Sure.
if Houston wins, I'm like, well, I hope the rest of my bracket sticks up with it. So okay, let's go and win this thing. But I'm not going to be upset if Duke wins. I'm just going to say, hey,
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
take it. Now screw my bracket. Let's go Duke. Because I did pick this matchup. I have Houston winning, and they should win. I would hope Duke competes and plays very well like they did the other night. Again, UConn looks unbeatable. Purdue looks really well. But I think going back to UConn,
Man, you named my 4
that
right there.
yeah, that UConn's the one team that just has not taken their foot off the gas.
They look like a train, man. They are moving, and there's no sign of them slowing
Alabama's
down.
looked really well too, but I don't expect much out of
I feel like Alabama's looked a lot like Duke. They struggled a bit in like that first round. They played much better in that second, kind of cleaned up their act a bit.
They scored a lot of points.
And the crazy thing is, like, I actually agree with you. I actually think like Duke looked really good in that second round. It's that first round performance that has me nervous, just because it's a rough way to start,
Yeah.
If they can continue to play the way that they did in that second round, Duke is formidable. Absolutely. UConn, I agree, though, is probably the team to beat right now. I think Purdue is also playing well.
Is doing well.
North Carolina's also been playing well. Purdue, though, I almost feel like the way I feel about Duke, like they just didn't quite perform the way I would have preferred in the first round. They did better in the second.
Yeah.
And I mean, if that's any sign that they're kind of picking up momentum and getting it going, great. But it was Purdue, UConn, and nope,
You
I
had
don't have it. I
Purdue
don't have it
winning
written
it
down.
all.
There's a third team
correct?
that did like really like scored really high, 90.
Did you pick Purdue to
points or
win
whatever.
in your
I
bracket?
did. Purdue on my
See
bracket.
that?
Yeah.
I mean, that goes back to I hope I wish TCU would have won because we would have been in the same situation. Our school or the school we're cheering for. I don't want to
Right.
call Duke my school because you actually went to TCU, but the school, our favorited school, playing our champion in the bracket. I thought that
Right.
had been pretty cool for both of that to be happening. But
No, I mean, fun for sure, because I mean, I have no problem rooting for TCU to upset my bracket and
yeah,
take the whole thing down. It would be a lot of fun. Big games you're looking forward to this weekend, Thursday, Friday, Thursday, Friday. Just to kind of list them off, I'll rattle them off real quick. In order, games Thursday, we start with Clemson versus Arizona. Then we got number 1 UConn versus number 5 San Diego State. Then UNC versus Alabama, Illinois versus Iowa State. And then Friday, Marquette and NC State, Purdue versus Gonzaga, Houston versus Duke, and Creighton versus Tennessee.
So Thursday, I think North Carolina, Alabama is going to be kind of the big one for me because Alabama's their offense has been ridiculous. And I fully expect North Carolina to take care of business, but I think that could be a good game. And obviously, I'm going to be biased. Duke and Houston are the team. Obviously the game
that's going to be a good game. Like even as like you being a Duke fan and whatever, that's going to be a really good game. And like you were saying, Houston's also been playing pretty well. They were actually leading the majority of that Texas A&M game. Texas A&M just did a really good job playing back in that like final 2
Yeah.
minutes, and then nailing that 3-pointer to take it to overtime. They definitely didn't look the same in overtime, and they struggled to keep up. So I mean, Houston's definitely struggled in that sense, in the sense of like not closing games by the end of game time.
Yeah.
But I think they're playing very well and they're very competitive. So seeing these two teams go at each other, I think both these teams honestly have like the potential to go all the way. This is going to be a really good game. My second favorite game for the 2 days is actually Purdue Gonzaga. I think that's going to be the next one that's going to be the most fun to
Yeah.
watch. But I totally agree with you. UNC Alabama is probably like my game of the day for Thursday. The rest of the matchups, I almost kind of expect to just go the way they should go. Illinois, Iowa State's a good matchup, number 3
Yeah.
versus number 2. But I mean, I almost fully expect these games to kind of go the way they're supposed to go according to rankings. It's Friday that I think is going to be the more competitive day, and we'll see what that does for us leading into Saturday and Sunday as we go into what that'll be the Elite Eight, right?
Yeah, going into Sweet 16, Elite, and then we'll go to the Elite 8. And we'll have more, like me and Tony will be on, and probably Landon as well in the lead off on Saturday morning, and that's what we're going to be reacting to is the Sweet 16 and Elite 8, or the
Yeah,
Sweet
for sure.
16 and moving into the Elite 8.
Well, we were talking last week a little bit about hopefully doing like another live watch party. So anybody that
Yeah.
might enjoy getting involved in that, maybe shout out or comment on the video the games that you think might be the best ones for us to watch and watch with you guys. We definitely want to get involved with that. We haven't exactly decided if we want to try and catch one of the Thursday, Friday games or Saturday, Sunday, or both, or neither, or whatever. But let us know what you guys think, because we can definitely try to implement
And that's
that.
a good reason to follow us on all social media platforms at Peak One Sports, because we will let you
Yeah,
know
for sure.
what we decide. I'm sure we'll fit something in at some point this weekend, but
Yeah, definitely.
let us know what matchups y'all are more interested in us talking about.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, Ashton and I are going to be meeting up on Friday afternoon. We'll be out on the town a little bit, probably around what were we saying, like Old Town Burleson, probably.
Yeah,
Stomp around there.
lunchtime into the early afternoon.
So anybody out there happen to see us out there, feel free to say hi. Let us know what you think of the show. Any
We're working
topics
on
you
some
might,
Peak
whatever.
One business.
Yeah, just trying to spread the
Things that are
word, get
coming up,
involved with the
yeah.
community.
Things that hopefully are coming up, but we'll see how that works.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Ashton, you in a rush? You want to talk about a couple of short topics, or
Let's go. Let's do it.
all right, we'll keep the MLB thing going for right now, and we'll just talk about a couple of rule changes that are happening since opening day is happening tomorrow. A couple of these I don't have a big issue with. A couple of these are some interesting choices. Um, we'll just kind of get into it and see what they're saying. So the first one, there's been a pitch clock adjustment. Pitchers will still have 15 seconds between pitches to start their throwing motion or throw the ball. As long as they do that, before the 0 second, they're fine. The adjustment here is actually with the pitch clock adjustment for runners on base. Sorry, getting tripping over my own tongue here. So we've adjusted the pitch clock for when runners are on base. The pitch clock has been adjusted from last year's 20 seconds. This year it'll be 18 seconds. I don't think that's a huge deal. It sounds like MLB's just trying to speed up the game just a little bit more. From what I read, the average is just a little over 2.5 hours. I think it was 240, something like that. But this sounds like an adjustment to just try and speed up the game a little bit. Ashton, got a big problem?
No big problem. I mean, MLB said they were going to possibly adjust some things, see how things go. And I think to them, they look at when runners are on base, they're still pitching and getting within that clock. I don't think they're telling pitchers speed up. I think they look at it and they're seeing pitchers in general are getting it done in time in 18 seconds where they can make that adjustment. No issue there.
No, I mean, in all honesty, I'm kind of on board. I think there's an argument to be made, like both for and against the pitch clock. We talked about it a little bit during our live stream of watching some of the March Madness last week, and kind of talked about pitchers' inability to kind of control the tempo of the game anymore, and that taking away a little bit of strategy from pitchers and teams. But I'm going to kind of double down on what I feel like I said then. After having like 3 seasons in a row where you set new records for like longest game in history, something had to be done. And I think this was a very good kind of intervention as far as trying to alleviate that issue. Not a whole lot of like issues that I take with baseball. I personally love baseball and I love the one-on-one battles and even the tempo of it, sometimes even if it is kind of slow. But I'm fully aware that 90% of people's complaints, both fans and non-fans alike, has always been that like baseball's kind of slow. So I can get on board with the clock. I can get on board with trying to speed up the game just a little bit. I don't know if I necessarily had an issue with like the amount of time that the games were taking this last season. 2.5 hours, 240 seems pretty good compared to 3 to 4 hours that I always anticipated in the past. But this is fine. I don't think it's gonna like speed up the game, like a half hour or anything like that. So the next big thing for pitchers rule adjustment was actually so as well as the rule of 3, the 3 batter minimum for pitchers that was instituted last year. Pitchers must now, if they warm up on the mound before an inning starts, they must face at least one hitter, which is stacked on top of the 3 batter minimum. So for those that don't fully understand what I'm saying here, the 3 batter minimum was for relief pitchers when they come in. They were supposed to face at least 3 batters unless they were closing an inning. If they came out and they closed an inning, then you could relieve that pitcher at the start of the next inning. There was no rule as far as that pitcher going out and like warming up on the mound and then changing them out.
It has.
There
is
basically
now speeding up the game. Is the whole point of that of bringing, because you have to stop and let the pitcher, when you bring in a new pitcher, you have to stop and let him warm up. And when you switch a pitcher for, obviously for, depending on whether the batter's right or left-handed, you're doing specific matchups. You can't bring in a pitcher for one guy and then bring in another pitcher for another guy. He has to face 3 guys.
Right. So that's basically the new rule. If you were going to swap out a pitcher after he closed an inning, you have to do it at the beginning of the inning. You can't let him warm up. If he warms up, he's going to have to finish off his 3 minimum. So to be honest, that seems fine to me. From what I read, there was 20 something instances where pitchers warmed up at the beginning of an inning and then were subbed out. That does seem like a waste of time, and it definitely does seem like
the only game. So if I understand right, the only instance would be if they finished off the previous inning with 1 hitter,
1 or 2.
Come in, but if they did 2, and they came in for the next inning and did 1, that would be their 3.
Right, but what I'm saying is like normally if they finish the inning after doing 1 or 2 hitters, you could sub them out at the beginning of the next inning. Right?
Oh, I got what you're
But if he comes out and he warms up on the mound,
you
can't sub him out anymore. He has to face at least 1 hitter, right? Which would give him his 3. But he also has to apply to the rule of 3. So if he only faced 1 hitter in the inning before, and he comes out, now he has to face 2 because he warmed up. But
so there are instances where they came out, warmed up,
and only get 1 out, close the inning, and then you sub him. But you have to do it immediately going into the next
there were
inning.
20 instances of them bringing in a pitcher, him warming up, or they go out for the inning, he warms up, but they sub him out
but he
before the
didn't
inning
pitch
starts.
to anybody, right? And they subbed him out for
That's
somebody
interesting.
else.
Okay.
Yeah,
You would think you would already
24
know if you were going to.
You would think. I would imagine what happens in that situation is you send your pitcher out to warm up, and then the other team like pinch hits or something,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
so they throw in like a lefty, and now suddenly you're like, change it.
So they're going to be. So are there? You think there might be rules in the future where we're not going to, if we're going to pinch hit at the beginning of the inning, we're not going to let that be known until their pitcher gets on the mound and starts warming
Maybe.
up. So maybe there's going to be a rule in the future that you have to announce a pinch hitter or something. I don't know.
Right.
Like
yeah.
just back and
like
forth.
before you go out.
And I don't mind it. I don't mind that there's not rules keeping, because it just makes it a chess match. That's what's
Sure.
like, yeah, if you don't love baseball, it can be one of the most boring sports to watch, but there's so much happening
There really
behind the
is.
scenes. It's not a ton of action that you can see, but so much is like you just watch a manager. He may look like he's bored out of his mind, but he's calculating.
Right, but he's calculating, man.
Yeah. There's always something going on in a baseball game.
For sure. Got one less mound visit this year. It was 5 last year. Got 4 this year. So 4 mound visits per game. And then I think that's about it as far as it goes for pitchers. Some of the other changes that we have here, though, basically apply to base running. So they widen the base path to first, which now includes the dirt between the foul line and the infield grass. So for those that didn't know or don't understand, a batter, hitter, base runner is supposed to basically stay on the chalk line, baseline, foul line, or to the right of that line as they approach first base. Now, basically, the rule says as long as both feet are on the dirt track on their way to first base, they're fine. They're allowed to have that space on the left side of the chalk line, baseline, as well as the space to the right. So, just widening the base path, really. I don't actually know how much this will change. Running to first. The way I understand it, the goal is to try to increase infield singles as much as possible.
Yeah.
I don't know if this will necessarily do that. I personally think the decision's a little bit foolish in the sense that like this seems like a good way for like a first baseman to get spiked, because now you've kind of given the base runner the whole bag instead of like one half of the bag or that kind of thing. So I mean, we'll see what happens there. It could be nothing. It could end up being absolutely nothing, and maybe it does help leg out some infield singles. I don't see that necessarily being the case.
Yeah, this is one like you can be upset just because things are changing. I don't necessarily agree or disagree with the rule. Most people aren't going to care unless it affects their team negatively, but at the same time, it has the same chance of affecting them positively. It is kind of weird. I mean, infielders are going to have an issue with this because it's a split-second decision when you're playing baseball, and you've been playing baseball this way your entire life, and now you have to switch and like, okay, in this situation, I have to, do this and whatever. In general, if you don't know about the rules, like not the rule changes, but if you're not really that versed, you're a casual fan, you don't really care about the rules as much. I don't see it affecting the game for you much at all. It is frustrating when they change the rules as much as they have been, and you try to keep up with them as a casual fan, and something happens, and you're like, why was that an out, or why wasn't that an out? And baseball has been going through a lot of significant rule changes. And by significant, I mean it's everyday stuff. It's not like the NFL where like, okay, we're adding this to what pass interference is, or this is a catch. Like it does get confusing, but in general, it's not as significant to everyday play as this. But we'll see how it affects things. I think it won't matter because it doesn't seem as significant as the pitch clock did. The pitch clock was very intrusive, and people were mad about it. But in general, it was fine in the end. Yeah, it's still kind of annoying to watch it and have that as a factor, but it's not a big deal. In
No,
10
for sure.
years, we won't even think about it anymore.
Yeah, and to be completely honest, I 100% agree with you. I think this happens a lot in a lot of sports where you just kind of have these what feel like very insignificant rule changes that you don't expect to necessarily have a lot of effect on the game, and especially not on like the outcome and stuff. But this
Look
last,
at like a 3-point line, the 3-point shot when I was added. That's so weird. If you think
yeah,
about it, you go to all of a sudden, that'd be like adding a 4-point line, and we'd be like, this is dumb.
right.
And that changed the game, but enough time passes, you're like, it's part of the game. Like nobody
Right.
thinks
Yeah,
of it.
it's just part of the game now.
Yeah.
But to be honest, that really leads us into this last rule change that I wanted to talk about. It's the main one I wanted to talk about because this one is probably going to have the most effect on the game. Uh, umpires, technically, the rule hasn't been changed, but umpires have been instructed to be, I guess, more critical about the obstruction rule as far as it concerns fielding the ball and base runners. Now, this really only applies to first, second, third. Home plate has its own kind of obstruction rule as far as like when a
Yeah.
catcher can interfere or block the plate. So
And for
this
the
doesn't
most part,
apply
this
to
rule will
that.
be more like I know it can apply to regular play, but in general, steals for the most part is what you're
For
gonna
the most
see
part, it's probably where you're going to
more.
see it the most. Um,
Maybe like double play attempts and things like that.
Yeah. So basically the obstruction rule basically says that infielders are not allowed to block or obstruct a runner's path unless they are in the action of fielding
And tagging.
a ball or tagging, right? Um, I had sent a video to
Mhm.
you boys in the text that kind of showed this a pretty good example of it, which is a pretty standard, to be honest, a pretty standard up until this point way of catching the ball was to kind of straddle the baseline
Yeah.
and kind of block second base more or less as you catch the ball and reach back to make the tag. That is no longer legal now. Um, Basically, as like a second baseman or a shortstop, you're gonna have to kind of post up in front of the bag or in front of the baseline and then
Yeah.
reach back and make your tag. So a little tougher for fielders for sure, but it's definitely putting a lot on the backs of the referees and the umpires right there because it's going to be their decision as far as whether a fielder was obstructing or whether they were in the action of fielding or catching the ball or tagging a player. So I think we're gonna see a lot of that, especially probably in the first month or two, because that's gonna be a tough one. That's gonna be like very much in the hands of the umpires. I think it's
Yeah. I mean, in general, you just teach your guys a different way, whether to stand on the outside or the inside of the bag and move your way in. Maybe it gives the runner an advantage of maybe a quarter of a second, if that, because you're trying to move your hand in, in the way to tag. To me, it feels like left-handed players are at a disadvantage with their
well,
glove on
you
the right, but I guess it depends what
can't
side of the bag you're going to be
can't play
standing on.
infield left-handed.
I mean, you can, but it's,
You have to make an extra move to throw the ball to first base. That's why
Yeah, no,
left-handers don't play.
agree. And if you're thinking about, it doesn't matter if you're left or right-handed,
Like, I
catching the
guess you could be
ball.
a first baseman. You can be
Yeah,
left-handed.
if you're a second baseman catching the ball, um,
But that's what I'm saying. There's no left-handed second baseman.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm
But I
saying.
will say, like
That
to
would
what
be
you're
the
saying,
disadvantage. But what if
I
it's
think
the shortstop making? Well, I guess that'd be pretty rare because you can't do. You have to keep two guys on the left side of second base and two guys because they don't do the.
I mean, I think you're on the right track here. I think the biggest issue, at least in my mind, is going to be the fact that because like a second baseman or a shortstop can't kind of block that base path that the runner has, it means you kind of have to step forward a little bit closer to home plate, I guess. Like if we're talking about kind of like a coming down, stealing second base
Yeah,
type play. And I'm going to say that gives a big advantage to your base runner if they're stealing second, because I'm going to tell my players to run on the outside of the baseline. You know what I mean? It's like use your left
yeah.
hand
That way
to
you have
grab
to
the
stay on the
bag
inside.
because
Yeah.
the fielder is going to have to reach back so far to try and get you, right?
Yeah.
And if you just stay on the baseline to second base and then go a little wide at the end, you should almost be able to steal every time. It's going to be very difficult, I think, for fielders to tag you out without obstructing the baseline. So I mean, I think that's why it's going to be like such a annoying, tough call, because I
Yeah.
feel like you're going to have on the best opportunities for a fielder to actually get a base runner out. He's going to have to obstruct on some level, he's going to have to get close to, or if not on the baseline, to make a good attempt at getting that out. So we might see a real uptick in steals this season just because of the way the rule is kind of worded and the fact that they're supposed to be, cracking down on it.
Yeah.
It'll
That
it'll
with
be
the,
interesting.
in combination with the pickoff rule from last year.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see what happens. I think it'll be really interesting to see. Hopefully it doesn't like interfere with the games too much. Because I'm gonna be completely honest, it like personally as a coach and everything, like this first week opening baseball and everything, I'd probably be stealing so much,
Yeah.
just to like test the waters, just to see what referees will let you get away with, what they won't.
Yeah.
And especially like as a Rangers fan, and like we got these young kids, we got these quick guys. It's like, man, I'd be stealing a lot. But I mean, just a
And
personal
really
opinion.
really
But
testing these infielders before they really get it down.
yeah,
Understanding, get the movement down. There's a lot of stuff
yeah, right.
to get used to.
Because I'm sure at some point
Yeah.
in like May or June, somebody will kind of figure out like the sweet spot to be in
Yeah.
and whatever, and it'll help the
Yeah,
the
because
stealing
nothing's
basis
changing for
thing.
the
But
runners, it's changing for the infielders, so test them, see if they're on their game.
yeah,
See if
exactly.
they have this in their mindset already, and maybe you can get a few interference calls out of it.
Yeah, for sure. I'd definitely be moving my guys into scoring position after probably every single, like
Yeah.
risk it. You might, I mean, and I think the reality is too, in my opinion, this early in the season, I'm not as worried about losses, because you're getting extra outs because of stealing. The information that you would end up learning from those games and those steals and things like that, I think would be just top notch. So I mean, it's not
Yeah.
going to hurt you by any means. So, all right, well, that was a pretty good episode this week for the sports page. I
A
think we
lot
did a
of
good job.
information, a lot of
We
content.
definitely missed Chris. Sorry he's not feeling so good this week. Definitely hope to see him back next week. But in the meantime, Chris, we love you. Get better, buddy. But in the meantime, I'm Dan Boyer, aka Neon Super Shrimp. That's Ashton. And we
See
will
you guys later,
definitely
man.
try and catch you guys next week. Don't forget to follow us at Peak One Sports, all social media platforms. Like and share the video, subscribe, YouTube, all that good stuff. Man, I'm so pumped for opening day.
Take it out. Let's take it out, man.
Run it back. Let's do this, Rangers. I'm so pumped. It's going to be a great year. Great year.